Hi everyone. So we're going to do a virtual field trip of what's left of our South Bay Botanic Garden. As many of you might know, we are in the process of a big facility and garden renovation process. So that's very exciting for the department. I hear that portions of the garden are still pretty intact, but obviously this whole front of the garden is been impacted by construction activity, preparing for the new facility. So we're gonna see how this goes. I talked to Mark today, and I guess we squeeze around with this fence to get in. So, we'll be looking at some of the design spaces and also kind of some of the tree preservation efforts. So first off, you can see that water and power has been cut to the facility. So this is your temporary recycled water line coming in to supply the trees. What else is going on around here? Obviously, certain parts of the garden are not really being maintained at the moment, and some are, where we still have classes going on. So look, it's invasive species, Cordaderia. So that is pampas grass. We want to avoid this in the landscape. This is a highly noxious weed, pretty as it is. So something maybe I'll point out to Mark to treat and possibly get out of there. So those of you who are new to the program know that we have landscape construction classes, and a lot of these kinds of arbor elements and benches and things that are installed in the landscape were installed by groups of students. So everybody kind of feels like they've built a part of the garden. It is definitely our teaching laboratory. A lot of work in the planning of the new facility to save the trees. So here you can see this beautiful Coriacea speciosa, still doing really well. They've got temporary irrigation on those. There's an elm over there. So we were able to save a lot of the trees. So you can see with this little space, as rough as it is, some nice kind of outdoor room type strategy, right? Where you've got an overhead plane with these vines draping down, some seating areas, some enhanced paving on the ground with the saltillo tile, some, kind of enclosure, so feeling like it's a separate space from other areas of the garden. Here's our event area. So I don't know if you guys had a chance to see this in the past, but this area was where we held our graduations. It's, again, pretty rough shape. These kind of tiered lawn areas were set out, and we had big picnics under the orchard trees. So the smaller orchard trees have disappeared, but the significant trees like that big pepper tree are being preserved. You can see the tree protection fencing installed. So we definitely, when we have what we call heritage trees, we protect them from construction. Sometimes with hard fencing like this chain link, sometimes it's just the orange fencing, but trying to keep the whole root zone, drip line of the tree protected. Let's see, what else have we got around here? Boy, there's a lot of areas that are not many landscape spaces left. So again, more tree protection fencing. This was the old golf green, so big construction staging area here. Again, each of these trees being protected with fencing. This was kind of a cute little space, again using brick, has some enhanced paving. There was a little native garden that used to be here. So, boy, some of the really changed since I've been out here. Good job saving a lot of our trees though. So I guess this is becoming more of a tour of how we protect existing trees from development and less of landscape spaces. So sorry, everyone, I asked Mark how the garden looked, and he said it looks great. So our spaces are gone, but our trees remained. You'll notice a lot of the campus spaces have these blue emergency phones. So we were fortunate to get one in the garden. So if you get stuck here after hours, you might have a chance at getting out. So our gardens will be kind of joined with the kind of maintenance areas. So in the end, we'll be able to have more areas to construct things and play with different materials. Like we call it our Sandbox area that's in the design. So nice little gazebo element, nice little seating area right now. In the past, it had little green roof panels on it, but again, shaping that kind of outdoor room space. Let's see, all kinds of creatures around here. A little bit of the pond left. So you can see the cattails are really persisting in the pond even without water. So very typical of a wetland environment, that they kind of can exist in saturated conditions versus dry conditions. So low point, so there's probably some water seeping in there, but still a little pocket of habitat. Again, temporary irrigation lines run throughout the property. Lots of butterflies today. So this used to be our formal garden. It was what we would call a parterre garden. We'll be studying these in the near future, but strong axial component and kind of these edges of boxwood creating formal shapes. I think as we get to the back edge of the property, there's more intact areas that weren't scheduled to have quite so much construction impact. So over here you can see tree protection and also the straw wattles. So those are limiting the flow of stormwater, and those are required when you're kind of doing grading activity. Looks like we've reached a bit of a dead end. So for those of you who aren't familiar with irrigation, when we see a purple color, what that means is non-potable water. Most commonly, that is a kind of a recycled water condition, but a lot of times it can be gray water, like collected from the building. Oh, isn't that pretty? So that is African tulip tree, I believe it's called. Beautiful flowers right now. So you can see the greenhouses. These will all be renovated during the construction project. There are some pockets of plantings that have remained. So you can see this kind of band of color along this. Again, more brick, so always nice to repeat materials through a landscape to provide some unity. So we've got some rosemary there. We've got I can't remember the name of that plant. Solanum. Can't remember the species of it. Take a look at some of our other plant material areas. So lots of renovations. I'm surprised how much has been removed. I haven't been out here in a while. Again, the trees are in good shape though, so that is the good news. All right, got our materials storage area. This is an area where they took some of the specimen trees that would have been damaged or destroyed during construction. A lot of the palm collection, they've dug them up and reboxed them. And then these are being maintained on site and they will be reintegrated into the design. So pretty big boxes. You know, these are probably 72-inch boxes. Yep, here's a label right here. So some significantly sized material will be preserved and then reinstalled back in the finished landscape. Some of the orchard trees have some fruit on it right now. Looks like some apples, fall apples ready for picking. So Mark is lucky. Some of the big citrus trees. So these were in that front event area. So they are being maintained in boxes until the project is done. Here's some of the dragon fruit collection. So this looks like it's humming along, being protected. Again, nice little wood arbor area, creating some protection for that, a little bit of shade in that environment. And that will be all reintegrated in. On the far edge over there, there was a bunch of different banana species donated. Got this really nice tree off-site too. Another big California pepper tree. So I'm glad to see the plant material looks good and healthy. I'm a bit shocked at how much of the garden spaces are missing, quite honestly. But, you know, progress takes time. So it'll be wonderful to have a new facility in the not too distant future. Take a look at a peek in a couple of the greenhouses if they're open on the way out. Nice little butterflies all over here today. So in color, they're very happy with this particular Calliandra plant. Hummingbirds all over there too. So we're going to be talking about some of the design principles today. So a good example of different textured plant materials. So I would call this popcorn plant kind of a medium texture. Of course, you have the beautiful yellow flowers. The butterflies are just happy as can be around that plant. This would also be kind of a medium texture. This looks like I'm not sure if it's a cottonwood that is taking off or one of the seedlings of the Chinese pistache, but some nice plants. Now this agave would be a coarse textured plant, so big heavy leaves on it. This would be kind of a medium to coarse texture plant. Let's see if we can find some getting into a finer texture with this shrub. A medium to coarse texture on this plant too. Same here with this viburnum. Lovely gray-green leaves on this acacia pendula, moving into a fine texture. same with this Baccharis. It's a very fine textured leaf structure. So not a lot of visual weight to it. That's in comparison to maybe this vine over here, which is a very coarse textured vine. So we're going to be talking about some of these elements like texture of plants, really great colors. Look at these big, beautiful passion flower vines. We've got some of the trumpet vines in here. If we're lucky, maybe there's some fruit hanging on there. I don't see any fruit yet. Beautiful, beautiful passion flower vines. Very fragrant too. Let's see. What else can we look at while we're out here? So when you undergo a construction project like this, you know, you can see the areas they've piled up boulders and things that we can use as materials to reset in the landscape. So we definitely want to do that. Here's a very fine textured Calliandra. This is actually a native to the desert. So we just saw that bigger Calliandra with the butterflies and the hummingbirds around it. But this would be our native version of that plant. A lot of times the tropical plants have a very big coarse texture. So you can see the rubber plant in back. I'm not sure what this plant is with the little red spiky flowers. And that's because they have access to abundant sun and water. They have the energy to grow these big, dense leaves. And a lot of times they need those leaves to actually collect light under the canopy of a rainforest overstory. So we've got a Ficus benjamina, that's a variegated one, more of a moderate texture. This is the octopus plant. So that has a big coarse texture. Lady palm is kind of a medium to coarse texture. Here's what's the name of that one? Interesting form on that one. So that is the cordyline, I believe, or a dracaena. They look pretty similar. All right, and this is our big heritage tree. So this is a Quercus virginiana southern oak, and the whole facility is really going to be built around this tree. So this is a key part of the new design. So, you know, clearly really being protected as a significant species. All right, well, you can see here's another bit of salvaged succulents, and they're actually in the process of flowering, which they only flower overnight, but kind of an interesting, kind of looks interesting in the barrel or the big planter as a statement plant. All right, well, I think that's about it for the garden tour. I'm sorry there's not more garden, but I think some really interesting construction practices you're able to see from this quick tour. All right, see you tonight.